What's happening, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Phightin Words. Anthony Sanfilippo's here. I'm Bob Wankel. Friday, August 21st. We're here to talk about the red-hot Phightin Phils. Anthony, last Friday I said to you that this is a team that is not worth getting upset about. They are who they are. We talked about them for an hour and 6 minutes. Most of it was negative. At the end of the show, you said, what do you think is going to happen this weekend? I said, they're going to sweep the Twins. And you said, me too. It was the most ridiculous finish to a podcast ever after you sit there and you basically crap on a team. And when I say you, I mean we, for an hour. But we kind of felt like there was going to be this little bounce with this team. And then it extended into this week against the Marlins, which was a nice little revenge tour, given what happened down in Miami a few weeks ago. Now they sit here. They're 12 games over 500, which I believe is their high water mark of the season. This is the longest win streak they've had since last September. They are 5 games out of the National League East. Oh, by the way, they're heavy favorites throughout this weekend against the Cardinals, a team that they owe 1 to, while the Braves have to go take on the red-hot Milwaukee Brewers, who might be the best team in all of baseball. And there's some weird world where at the end of this weekend, the Phillies are sitting 2 to 4 games out of a division that we kind of had punted as recently as, I don't know, like 10 days ago.
Yeah, Bob, it was the day we were going to the ballpark at Field of Dreams when this whole 6-game win streak started. That morning, the Phillies woke up 9.5 games out of first place.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no shot. They're like, yeah, don't even think about the division. It's not even, let's just focus on the wild card. And here we are 8 days later, and they're 5 out. They had cut it to 4.5, but the Braves won a makeup game against the White Sox yesterday, so it's 5. Like, I don't know. I look at this. I look at what's coming ahead for these guys. I was on 97.5 yesterday, and they asked me if I thought they could catch the Braves. And you know me, I'm always big about schedules, right?
Yeah.
And I just look at this Cardinals, Mariners, like Angels stretched, right, and go, here's 9 games that the Phillies should win 7. Meanwhile, the Braves got to play, the Brewers and the Dodgers here. Like, there's a chance that they go into that series. So they're going to end up playing the Braves 7 times in 10 days in September, 4 days over Labor Day weekend here, and then the following weekend, 3 in Atlanta. Oh, by the way, the Braves have to play the Rays in between those 2 series against the Phillies. And I look at this and I say, going into that first series against Atlanta, they're going to be within 2 games. And then you have like a week-long thing where it's like, this is the division. The division's at play for the next week. I think that's what we're headed for.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I don't think the Phillies are going to win the NL East. I actually don't feel all that changed from a week ago when I said this is not a team worth really letting break your heart. But I will admit to you that yesterday I watched the makeup game between the White Sox and the Braves. And I watched it because, one, I really wanted to see where Atlanta's at right now. Like, what are we looking at? Why have they cooled off? What do they look like? I haven't watched the Braves a whole lot lately. But also because I knew it had an impact on the standings. I'm like, there's a world where they're going to go into this weekend only behind by 4 games, and so I've got my eye on it. So while I tell you I don't think they're going to do it, I'm letting myself believe that there's a possibility they can do it.
Sure. You have to. I mean, you have to. You would be foolish at this point to sit there and go, nah, they're still not going to do it. But it would be just as foolish to sit here and go, oh, they're absolutely going to do it, right? Like, so you have to fall in between. You have to sit there and say, recognize that the possibility exists and that it could happen, but also be a realist and say, it's the Braves aren't that bad of a team that they're going to utterly collapse, and the Phillies aren't that good of a team that they're going to maintain this level of play for the next 35 games either. So we've been wrong before. Like, one of those 2 things could happen, but if you're going off of the odds are that it's probably not going to. But it's a non-zero chance that it does.
Well, part of the reason it's a non-zero chance is because they've taken advantage of what is not like a cupcake schedule here. I mean, these teams are formidable to a degree, the St. Louis's and the Marlins of the world. And like, even going back to the Orioles, they're still in the playoff race. The Blue Jays have been chippy lately. Like, these teams aren't dreadful, but they're all mediocre teams, and the Phillies have kind of risen above it here lately. And, in this month, they're 13-5. They have a plus 32 run differential. They're hitting 273 as a team with a 3.15 staff ERA. Like, they've played better baseball. They've pitched better. They've had better at-bats. And even defensively, at least in the infield, we've seen them play a better brand of baseball. It has not been perfect. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they have an above-average defense by any stretch of the imagination, but they've cleaned some things up. And, Bryson Stott, what he's been able to do at third base, which we can talk a little bit more about in detail later, is certainly a big part of that. And I'll even go back one step further. Like, we've seen this team go through it. I'm not particularly bullish on this particular team. I don't think they're very good. I think they're clearly a class below the Brewers and the Dodgers in the National League. I know that the Brewers have never won anything. I understand. Look, that's how I feel right now. But you zoom back to May 1st, which we all want to do because we just pretend that April didn't count. They're 58-39 since May 1st now, with the 7th best run differential in baseball. And that's probably a better representation of what they are than the team that has the 15th or 16th best run differential in baseball that is, sitting where they're at right now. So, like I said, I wouldn't bank on it. I wouldn't bet on it, but I think it's not insane to have the conversation. But they've got to go right now. Like, you talk about the Mariners, they got to go out there. It's a tough place to play. The Mariners have been probably the sport's biggest underachiever this season. They just called up their top pitching prospect. Like, that's a team that could still, with 1 or 2 good weeks, get into the playoffs. So I'm not saying that the Phillies are – I actually don't expect the Phillies to win that series against the Mariners as bad as they've been. But this weekend, what sits in front of them right now, like, you got to go gobble up at least 2. And quite frankly, given the advantage that you have in the pitching part of this on Friday and Sunday, like, I don't think it's absurd to go into this series saying, like, we're playing pretty well, let's go sweep this team.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Bob. And Saturday is going to be an interesting thing all around. And it's weird that we're going to start talking about this Cardinal series in the beginning. Usually we save the look ahead till the end of the show. But I'll tell you that Saturday is the one that's the most interesting. Like, I think they win tonight with Luzardo. I like them Sunday with Sanchez. It's Saturday where you got Andrew Painter, right? And we've talked about it a little bit after his last start. That he didn't look great in Minnesota, obviously, but then he sucked it up and got them through 5 innings. It was okay from innings 2 through 5, but really was terrible in inning 1. But then if you go back and look at it, and so this is why it's interesting to me. If you go back and look at his start, like, and there's a lot of people who've talked about this, not related to the Phillies, like independent evaluators who have said it was the best his fastballs looked, even in that game, even though it was bad. Was the best his fastball has looked since coming back from Tommy John. So you look at that and say, okay, that's interesting. Can he sustain that? Can he do something with that this weekend? But on the flip side, he's been terrible in first innings. He's had some short outings, both on his own doing and because of weather. And oh, by the way, it's supposed to rain all day tomorrow. So, like, what does that do? Like, does that change things? Does that change the dynamic of this weekend as well? So Saturday to me is the one where I'm not 100% sure I'm with them. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I'm with you. Friday, Sunday, I think are should be wins for the Phillies.
Yeah, I think we may have mentioned on Monday, maybe not, but I did see it kind of made its way around social media. There was they have a metric for everything, and now there's stuff. Like, you can now grade out stuff. And they said that on Sunday, he had the best stuff of any starting pitcher. And, given what we saw in the first inning, it's hard to believe that's true.
Well, he had no command that first inning.
Yes.
He really killed the guy, if you recall.
When I look at the totality of stuff, though, I saw, hanging breaking stuff that was almost jacked for a grand slam, followed by hanging breaking stuff that was jacked for a grand slam. I mean, but to your point, if you look at the shape and the form and the finish on the fastball, and there's something to that, then let's say it. Obviously it didn't really result in a lot of strikeouts. It wasn't a big swing and miss high strikeout game for him, but maybe there's something there, and maybe there's a world where if you really want to get super positive, that he's able to just put it all together. I do think that he lost his poise in the first inning last Sunday, but for the most part, despite how underwhelming and disappointing this year has been for him, he doesn't seem like a guy who, I don't want to say he doesn't seem like a guy who gets rattled, because he looked like he was about as rattled as you could be on Sunday in that first inning. But when you zoom out and you look at him, I don't feel like he's a guy that gets super affected by the adversity. Like he's done a pretty good job for a young kid who has not experienced much success in keeping about as even keel as you possibly can overall. Yeah. And so if he sits here and says, like, I think I'm making progress, I really feel like it, that there's numbers to back it up, that evaluators can back it up, maybe he really does put it all together and gives them a solid look as a number 5 star. I'm not talking about jumping, making 4 jumps and becoming Justin Verlander by the end of September, but I'm talking about just being a guy that you can say, hey, reasonably speaking, we're going to have an opportunity to win a game tonight with this guy on the mound. Speaking of which, on July 16th, the day coming out of the All-Star break, we did a show. It was before the Phillies played the Mets, and Aaron Nola was pitching that night. They lost the game. But we did a segment on, who's going to pleasantly surprise you in the second half. And, Aaron Nola was on our show last year when he was injured. He gave us his time. I really like Aaron Nola as a human being. I think he's obviously one of the better pitchers in the history of this franchise, and in part because there's just not that many of them. But a guy who it's impossible not to like him. But I've been very critical of Aaron Nola on this show for a number of years, and not just recently here in this latest contract where he's kind of been, bad. I will say that I felt like there were some signs of life there, though, and I told you that Aaron Nola was going to be a pleasant surprise in the second half for the Phillies. And in the 7 games since we did that show, he's thrown 40 innings. He's allowed 40 hits. How about this? He's given up 16 earned runs, Anthony. 11 home runs. It's like if you don't get them by the long ball, you're not going to get them. I mean, it's all the damage is done on home runs. 44 strikeouts to 15 walks, a 3.60 ERA. So, my premise was that not that he was going to turn into a number 2 starter in a playoff series, but that he was going to give you a good look as a 4th starter. And I said he was going to have a sub-4 ERA, somewhere rattling around 3.9. I don't know if that's how it's going to wrap up. He's still got a long way to go, but in the month and 5 days since we did that show, he's been everything that you could possibly hope for. And he's a big reason that we started this show today talking about the possibility, as crazy as it may seem, that the Phillies aren't out of this division.
Yeah, no, it's pretty wild. Like if you look at what he's done, and it's been kind of like, it's weird. It's been kind of a pitcher's approach. So Nola's always had 5 pitches, right? He's always been a guy who mixes his pitches. But I think that there were a few things that were working against him for a year and a half, basically. Obviously, there was some injury last year, but he was not good really at all last year, with the exception of, I guess, like the last couple starts of the season, whatever. But there was things working against him. One, his fastball was never a great fastball, but the velocity on it was has been down the last couple of years from where it normally was. His cutter was getting smoked. It was his worst pitch, and he was throwing it a lot. And he basically stopped throwing his changeup. And so you take those things and then you say, here's how the sequencing that he usually does. It became easier for people to hit him, especially left-handed batters. Well, what's changed? They've gone more with the changeup now. They've reduced the amount of time that the cutter has been used. Now really kind of using that as like his 4th or 5th pitch, mostly 2nd, 3rd time through the batting order, hardly ever first time through. The changeup is back being a regular pitch, probably like his 3rd best pitch now. And that changeup, because it comes from the same arm slot as his fastball, keeps hitters off balance enough that it makes the curveball so much more effective when he throws it. And that's really what it is. And so and then on top of that, he's changed the sequencing. So some batters he's pitching them backwards, some batters he's pitching the same way. So he's really turned it into a chess match because his stuff is diminished. He's trying to win the war by a mental game, and it's working. Now, how long that works, we don't know. That could go awry really quickly, go south real fast. But in the short term, it's working for Aaron Nola, and it's to the point, Bob, where let's assume he continues on this trajectory where he keeps pitching well, gives you about 6 innings between 5 and 10. I know he went 7 last time, but I think that was going to be an outlier. He's probably in that 6 inning range. 3 runs or less. He probably becomes a guy that you go, okay, I could start him in a playoff game and not only have to make him pitch 2 innings. And you feel okay about it.
I mean, you at least feel. I think there's a world where he goes into that start and it doesn't go well. I'm not like sold on the idea that Aaron Nola has figured out and henceforth will be a 6 inning, 3-run guy all the way through. I think there's going to be some blow up story. You go, oh boy, that was ugly. But yes, I think you could do worse in this moment than Aaron Nola in a playoff series as a 4th starter. I think you could do a lot worse. And I think there's something to be said for a guy that's been there a million times. He too, you talk about the poise. You don't have to worry about that part of it. Like if it blows up on Aaron Nola, it's not going to be because he was overwhelmed in the moment. And I think when you take the entire package into consideration, you would feel okay about that. And against some teams, maybe not the Dodgers, you might even end up in a situation where you have an advantage, and we'll see. Now you dive into the numbers a little bit. You look at what he did the other night, 7 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts, no walks. And we talked about how his walk rate had been up in recent starts. And maybe that was actually playing into an advantage for him because, his stuff's very hittable. And if you're in the zone enough, you're probably going to get hurt. But the other night, he eliminates the walks entirely, he keeps the hits down. He only gives up the solo home run. And it was really impressive against the Marlins team, which, by the way, I know everybody wants to say, oh, the Marlins stink, but that lineup's not bad. They've got some guys at the top half of that order that can do some things, and he's throwing the ball very well against that team now 2 times over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Well,
3 times this year. Yeah, all 3 starts against him this year have been arguably his 3 best starts.
But it's all about the curveball for him. In the Netflix game, I know you were there, but they had talked about when the curveball's on, it's still one of the better pitches in the sport. And the numbers sort of bear that out. If you go back to last year, which was a total disaster for him, opponents hit 274 against his curveball and they slugged 462 against it. That's not very good. If the curveball doesn't work, then it just doesn't work, period, for Aaron Nola. But this year, opponents hitting 173 against it and they're only slugging 330 against it. I mean, that is a dramatic year-over-year decline in production against that pitch. And, the changeup's been pretty effective as well. Opponents only hitting 221 with a 286 slug against it. Everything else is bombs away. I mean, dude, Anthony, listen to this. 4-seam fastball. Opponents hitting 345 with a 709 slug against his fastball. 364 with a 701 slug against his sinker. 429 with a 619 slug against his cutter. I mean, anything with any degree of velocity on it from him is going to be just obliterated and has been all year. But that curveball and that changeup are doing enough where it's carrying him right now.
Yeah, no, and that's the point, Bob, and that's what I'm saying. You can throw the fastball in non-fastball counts and kind of surprise guys a little bit, and that's how you can. And then that keeps them off balance because then maybe you're throwing the changeup in a fastball spot and the batters are way out in front of it. And then if the curveball is coming out of that same slot and they're thinking, oh, this might be the changeup, and then it just dives off, down and away. As long as you keep that curveball down, and then guys look bad. There's a lot of whiff right now. Even he had some starts, if you remember, Bob. There was that one start. I think he gave up 5 runs. I forget who it was against. But we looked at it and we said, how the hell did he have 21 whiffs in a game where he wasn't very good?
Yeah.
And it was therein lies what we're talking about. As long as you get your sequencing right And if you keep that curveball down and that changeup is effective, you don't need to be a blow you away fastball guy. You could still be a decent pitcher in this league.
Yeah, and look, that's where there's like this feel with a team. There's the ebbs and flows, but there was a large portion of the season, an abnormally long portion of the season, where Nola and Painter were paired up back to back with one another. And you felt like that every time through the rotation, you only had a chance to win a baseball game 60% of the time. Those two spots represented no opportunity to win a baseball game. Fast forward a couple months, and I think going into any given night right now, and this is even acknowledging, like, I'm not sold on Andrew Painter's resurgence or that he's really, truly figured it out. But at least going into a start by him, I feel like they have an opportunity to possibly win the game tonight. And that's a good place to be, where you come into a game any given night and you feel like they can win, while acknowledging that the bullpen is going to have its issues, while acknowledging that this lineup is going to go silent inexplicably and out of nowhere, often against mediocre to poor pitching. Like, the Phillies are going to Philly, right? But going into a game, you feel like they can do this tonight. And that is a nice spot to be as you get to the back end of August. I will say, we talked a little bit about Zach Wheeler. And right now, as strange as it is to say, I mean, like, Zach Wheeler for me is like a Mount Rushmore Philly. He's like, if there was a second Mount Rushmore in like modern era Phillies, like, I think Zach Wheeler, maybe not the first one, but the second one, he'd have an argument. He's been awesome. He's a great pitcher. I have a lot of general respect for him. I don't want to say I don't have faith in him, because I do. I have a lot of faith in him. Like, he's a guy that, like, when the chips are down, if I got Zach Wheeler going, I'm in, and I probably even say that about 49-year-old Zach Wheeler. But right now in this moment, those starts don't feel good. It feels a little unsettled. And we talked about him on Monday, and so I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about him today. But look, he goes out against the Dodgers out of the All-Star break. It was his first start out of the break, and it's 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned, strikes out 9, doesn't walk anybody. His ERA is sitting at 2.16 after that start. And you're like, hey, I know the Phillies got embarrassed again by the Dodgers. There was a lot of stupid stuff they did in that series, but you saw Christopher Sanchez, you saw Zach Wheeler going up against that Dodgers lineup, and you're like, you know what? If they see them in October, like, there's a chance. But since then, it's been kind of a mess. I don't want to say disaster, but it's been a mess. That's followed by the Miami game down there. He only goes 3 innings. His velocity is just totally off a cliff. He gets hit around. He's out of the game. Then he goes to Baltimore. He looks better. He only lasts 2 innings because of the rain. Not his fault. Toronto, Chase Utley night. Rain, the whole thing. He's just not very good. He gets into the 5th, 6th inning. He starts to struggle. He ends up going 5 1/3, 4 earned runs, 5 walks. Very uncharacteristic for Zach Wheeler.
That was also the game, if you recall, where the Blue Jays got into his head a little bit about the rubber gate, right?
Yeah. And then he comes out and he says, well, they're not winning a lot. And, the whole thing, I said at the time, I was like a little bit like off put by that. It was just not very Zach Wheeler-like, but fine. St. Louis, he's okay early on. He doesn't really look like Zach Wheeler, but he's getting some strikeouts. And then the 5th inning, it all goes to, I'm really trying hard with this syndication thing to not curse. So it all goes to where you would know it
Keep
would go.
in mind, we can bleep it. It's okay.
Yeah.
I just
well, then it all goes to shit, Anthony.
I just write down the timestamp and then they bleep it out. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, and then so then you go, okay, well, here he is. Like, now he's got to get it going again, because we talked about it. There's all these variables, like, it's fine. It's Zach Wheeler. And then he comes out Monday and he's okay. Like, he's all right early on. He's doing his thing, getting some strikeouts. And then the 5th inning hits again, and he runs into some trouble. And it's not a blow up. He goes 5 innings, he gives up 2 earned runs. But you look at his night and you go, okay, he got 15 outs against this Miami lineup, and it took him 98 pitches. And in the 5th, he actually gets the first 2 batters to start that inning, but it takes 9 pitches and 9 pitches to get through it. Like, you can't take 18 pitches in the 5th inning to get 2 outs. Like, you just can't do it. It's so inefficient. Like, and then it's base hit, base hit, base hit, base hit, base.
You just muted yourself.
I'll fix this in a second. But he only gets out of the inning because they make the out at second base. And like, you're like, come on, man. Like, I'm not telling you Zach Wheeler's like a red flag or like, oh my God, it's not like he'll never figure it out. But like in this moment, it's not Zach Wheeler, man. This is not the Zach Wheeler that this team is going to have if they're gonna do something here.
Yeah, I'm with you. And here's what I've been pondering, Bob, because I don't know. I mean, Zach will never say anything's bothering him or whatever. I mean, you got to remember, even last year when he finally went out with the thoracic outlet syndrome, that, you know, he was saying, like, what he was saying publicly and what's going on behind the scenes were kind of two different things. Although it did kind of sneak up on him pretty quickly in Washington. But let's keep in mind that this is what he came back from, right? And I do wonder, and I don't know this because this is not my area of medical expertise, but I do wonder if there is a little bit of something that is setting in. Not that he's injured or anything like that, but that, you know, coming back as quickly as he did, and let's remember, he came back faster than anyone expected pitching in April, that maybe that there is a little bit of just arm fatigue. And it's nothing more than that. And it's just, I'm not saying that he says he has a dead arm or anything like that. Maybe it's just he can't command his pitches like he usually does. And it's causing him to, you know, have to figure out other ways to get through batters, and it's taking a little bit longer than it normally does, and his outings end up being shorter. Maybe that's where we're at with him, just this year. You know, do we have to take that into consideration? I don't know, but it's been something I've been thinking about.
Yeah, I think that there's certainly something to that. And I guess this is not a perfect time, but an appropriate time to introduce the idea that Nestor Cortes is going to be part of the Phillies. Let me ask you a little bit about Nestor Cortes. I mean, last we saw him, he had a simply disastrous 2025, and he had a disastrous finish to his Yankees tenure. He was a good pitcher for that team. And in 2024, you know, he made 30 starts and had a 3.77 ERA. You know, he nice arm, like quality arm. It did not go well for him in two different spots last year. Had surgery, I believe it was in October. He's come back from that now. Signs a major league deal with the Phillies. Is his existence in this on this roster in time more about giving a Christopher Sanchez and Zach Wheeler a little bit of a breather and maybe going to a 6-man rotation if you had the luxury to do that? Like if the wild card standings were to present itself in a way where you don't have to have absolute pedal to the metal every night. Is this about Nestor Cortes potentially being a multi-inning bullpen option and help shoring up what is, in my opinion, a bad bullpen outside of the closer? What is this guy here for? What's the plan? And when do you think we're going to see him?
They're all good questions. And my response is, I think it's a little bit of everything that you said. You know, and as Ethan Pechersky mentioned, he says he's confident. He's not confident it'll be anything special, but if he lets the Phils get their main guys some extra rest, it'll be well worth it. I think that's in the back of their minds a little bit, but I don't think it's front of mind. I don't think that that's why he was brought here. You know, Mattingly Tim Kelly asked Don Mattingly about this the other day, and Mattingly said, you know, about going to a 6-man rotation. He said teams that do that have the luxury of feeling comfortable with where they are in the race.
Yeah.
And so it was almost indicating that the Phillies aren't comfortable with where they are in the race, so they probably
nor should they be.
Right. So I think that I don't think he was brought in to be a 6th starter. I think he was brought in to be a depth starter, as in, let's see what Andrew Painter looks like. If that goes bad again, maybe we don't let Andrew Painter make those last 6 starts. Maybe we let Nestor Cortes make those last 6 starts. So I think that's another part of the intrigue to Saturday night for me, why I said the game was most intriguing. And I also think, Bob, that he's a guy that they're looking at, if they make the postseason, as another left-handed arm that they can use out of the bullpen, because they don't trust a lot of their lefties. We don't trust Alvarado, right? We don't really trust. Well, Brooks Raley's okay, but he's more of a middle relief guy.
We'll bounce back the other night.
Yeah,
And
Meza is Meza, right? But more than anything, maybe Nestor Cortez serves. We were talking about Aaron Nola earlier. Maybe he serves as the piggyback for Aaron Nola. So maybe Nola gives you 4, and Nestor Cortez gives you 3, and then you go Bowl and Duran, right? And then you go right-handed starter for 4 innings, left-handed guy, force the opposition to make some decisions with their lineup, and then you have your back end. So maybe that's the way that they view him as well. I think it's a hybrid role, and I think that the last question you asked is, when do we see him? It will be determined tomorrow night. Like if Painter struggles tomorrow, it's the next time. I think it's the next time.
So we have a sense that he's close. I mean, you sign him to a major league contract. The idea is like, hey, go down, maybe make an appearance or 2, and then you'll be up here.
Yes, I think that's the case.
One of the big misses at the deadline was not going out and getting an insurance policy for the rotation. And I think we all felt that. You're like, wow, you're really playing with some fire here. If one start from Andrew Painter against the Orioles is enough to sell you that he can be your 5th man all the way home. And as we know, they have 0 depth to replace anybody in the event of an injury. If they would have gone out and at the deadline, the day of the deadline, and done this Nestor Cortez deal, how do you think it would have been received? Because it's flown under the radar. Number one, they're playing games. They're in the middle of a 6-game winning streak. Everyone feels a little bit better about them. I feel like that the signing, not that it needs to be major news, but it's like almost in a way kind of gone under the radar like a little bit over the last couple of days. Yeah. If this would have been right at the deadline where everyone was like, we need help, you got to do something. And you're like, well, they didn't make a trade, but they actually went out and signed Nestor Cortez, who, was a little bit banged up. We came to find out last year, didn't pitch well, but he's, a year removed from being a pretty good arm that can slot in the middle back end of your rotation. Does that not fill the need? A versatile, experienced, crafty guy that provides a hybrid insurance option for you. Is this not what we wanted?
Yeah, no, it's a good point, Bob. And I would say that had he not been coming off of injury and coming off of 11 awful starts in 2025, that people would have probably been really excited about it, in all honesty, right? I mean, because that's exactly the kind of pitcher that you were looking for, another lefty who can be in the back of the end of your rotation if need be, or could be a left-hander coming out of the bullpen if needed in a key spot in the playoffs. So like it would be exactly what you were looking for. But I think even if it did happen then, if let's just say that that's when they signed him, August 3rd.
Yeah.
Based off the fact that he hasn't pitched in a year, coming off of injury, and the last time we saw him, he was awful, it probably would have ruffled feathers for the fan base.
Do you look at him and say, I'd rather do Nestor Cortez on a prorated deal or trade for Brady Singer and give up your 13th best prospect? Like,
I'd rather Cortez.
Okay. Well, I mean, then that answers the question, because that's all I wanted the Phillies to do was go out and get a guy like Brady Singer, who stinks.
Yeah.
No offense to Brady Singer, but like he's not having a good year. He's 5 innings, 3 runs, 4 runs. Like that's what he's been for the last, that's what he's been all year, basically. He had one little stretch where he was decent. It's like, do you want that depth guy, or do you, and you have to pay something for it, or do you just sign a guy and say, let's take a flyer and see what happens?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm good with that. And I gotta, I love our commenters, and I love our boy Ethan. But he says, the Yankees used Cortez out of the pen in the World Series, didn't turn out well for them.
No,
it was one appearance in one game against.
Yes, but
Dodgers.
When I said that it did not end well for him in his Yankees tenure, that is in fact what I was referring to.
Yeah,
it was a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, it was one. I mean, he only gave up 1 hit. It was a home run. But yeah, I mean, it was just one appearance. So like to sit there and say, oh well, that's not a good thing. I mean, I don't know.
Somebody referred to Nestor Cortez as like Walmart Ranger Suarez, I think is what someone said.
Well, what's funny, I talked to, Ant Jr. about this as soon as it happened. Because, he follows these guys from the time that they're in the minors. And he said, Dad, Nestor Cortez, when he was coming up, was on the same trajectory as Ranger Suarez.
Yeah.
And that the difference was that Nestor didn't have that it factor that Ranger had, and that was the difference between the two. And I was like, that's a pretty fair point, actually, when you go back and look at it, and you look at their minor league trajectory, it was very, very similar. So it's not crazy to compare him stylistically to Ranger Suarez. It's just a different personality. I think that's the difference between the two, and why one is a multi-million-dollar starting pitcher in a playoff rotation, and the other guy is being signed in August off the scrap heap, right? So, kind of an interesting.
Well, we did the Nestor Cortez thing. That's exciting.
Let's go.
Does Zach Wheeler figure it out, Anthony?
Does he figure it out? I think so, but I don't think he hasn't figured it out. I think that he knows, like you pointed out, like last start, he only got 2 runs in 5 innings. So it's not that it was a bad start. It's just that there were things in there that were, not characteristic of Zach Wheeler.
What I want to know about his start the other night, is it that he does not, because you go back 2 starts ago, 5 walks, as I mentioned. I think he only had 1 in the next. But then the other night, 4 walks. Is it that he has lost his command, or is it that he is scared to be in the zone as much because he's not as confident with his stuff playing at 94, low 95, and so he's getting cute, and that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, and I wonder if he's I wonder if he's trying to figure out the same thing, right? Like, I don't know. I don't ever think of Zach Wheeler as someone who's scared to throw a pitch.
No, but I'm telling you, man, like he's not.
Yeah.
It's not like, here you go, buddy. Like, he's not right after guys right now, and I don't.
Yeah.
He does seem like he's pulling a lot of pitches. There's been a bigger mix of non-competitive pitches in recent games, and it just looks like a guy that's trying to figure it out. And like I said, if I had a bank on somebody, even with diminished velocity, and it's not like he's throwing 91, but like I'll bank on him to figure it out. But there's enough going on here right now where I'm not like, Phil's Mariners Monday or Tuesday, Zach's on the hill, like book it. Like he's not there right now. He's not that guy right now.
I hear you. I want to get to a couple of our commenters while we have a minute here in the program. Joe Carmison says, I do have one complaint with the Phillies at the current moment. Does a Ryan Kerkering really not know how to field his position? I cringe every time the ball's hit to him. He had that throwing error the other night, Bob. It was kind of reminiscent, eh?
Yeah, man. Like, I don't know if that is just totally coincidental, if there's really something to it. I would imagine every time the ball's hit back to him, he has to have some bleep it, oh shit, element to it. And it's a shame because he actually got off to a decent start in that inning the other night. I was going to come in and actually say something nice about him today too, despite that fielding error. So I've been lamenting that he just doesn't throw enough strikes. And that's the biggest issue. In June and July, he was basically throwing, he was walking a batter for almost every inning he pitched. You just can't do that, especially as a high lever. You can't do it if you're anybody, especially if you're a primary setup guy, though, out of a bullpen. But this month, he's made 9 appearances. He's pitched 7 2/3 innings. He's only walked 1 batter. And so, I'm looking for something, with Kerkering and Alvarado specifically, because at the end of the day, this will not work if one of these guys, if not both, aren't competent. And so I'm like, okay, maybe we have something working here. We'll see.
Yeah. It's a small sample, right? But you got to go off. Sometimes you got to go off of those, right? Sometimes that's what those small samples are. What
it just doesn't work though right now. Kirkering and Alvarado, 5.47 ERA since the All-Star break combined. It's not gonna work.
No, it's not. It's not. This one was a funny one. I want to bring this one up. John Saviello says, how about DJ AAA with the infield single the other night? They have some juice right now. First 2-hit game for Garrett Stubbs since April.
You don't win the game the other night without Garrett Stubbs.
That's right.
You know what? It's funny, like, because I know you like him, and I like him too. Other guy that we've had on the show, I like Garrett Stubbs. I actually think it's weird how much like Phillies Twitter and like people don't like Garrett Stubbs at this point. I think it was because it goes back to 23 with the pool and the Diamondbacks, and like somehow he got blamed for that.
Yeah.
Look, I just never seen so many people get so angry about a backup catcher. That being said, like Garrett Stubbs cannot be on the Phillies after this season. Like,
no, I don't think he will be, but I think he stays within the organization
I
in
hope
some
so.
capacity. I do.
I hope so.
I do.
But Marshawn stinks too. I mean, so it's like, it's so bad.
Yeah, it is.
You don't like JT Realmuto? Well, guess what? You better hope he doesn't get hurt.
That's right. Here was one that Ethan asked. He says, "Isn't Stott's fantastic shift to third base damning for Bohm? Stott's been there for 3 weeks and is 10 times better than Bohm was able to be in 7 years." He's been very good at third base. Very good at third base.
One guy's a ball player, and the other guy is Alec Bohm.
It's the truth. But I do ask this question. This is
hold on. Don't ask a question. I'm going to defend Alec Bohm. Alec Bohm's better at first base than Bryce Harper. The Phillies are better defensively, both at first and third base right now.
Isn't that crazy? I thought it was going to be the biggest detriment, and it turns out that it was actually not.
Now, obviously, he had that series against Toronto where you're like, come on.
Yeah.
And he's not a Gold Glover at first, but he's better, I believe. And I haven't looked at the numbers, but I believe that Alec Bohm's better at first base right now than Bryce Harper is.
Could be. So here's my question. This is the reason I brought the comment up. And I know it's only been 16 games, whatever. Bryson Stott, your third baseman in 2027?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, because look, I mean, one of the things is like there's so much to this. Hey, Alec Bohm, nice job against the Twins last weekend.
Yeah.
Hey, Alec Bohm, they probably don't win the game the other night against the Marlins without his insurance run. I believe that. Like, that was a big hit that he had. He's had a great week. Not the other night, but a great week overall. Good job. I think he's done an okay job at first base. If you look at the free agent market, you cannot. I mean, I don't care if this guy hits 640 down the stretch. Like, he just can't do this again, right?
Right.
But the third base market is not especially appealing unless you like, Bo Bichette if he opts out of his contract with the Mets. Like, I don't want that. So, yeah, I think that there is a possibility. Obviously, like, does Aiden Miller's back ever work again? Like, that's a big part of all of this. And, could you play him? I think Miller has to be on the Phillies in 27 at some point. He's got to be part of the plan if they're reasonably confident that, like, he can function. But stop playing third base, I think, is definitely a possibility. I'll also say this. I think Bryson Stott at third base has helped calm Trey Turner down a little bit. Well, I'm not going to say all of a sudden has, like, figured it out, but I do think that Trey Turner probably has less pressure on him defensively in terms of range and what he's responsible for. And that's probably helped him be a little bit better defensively at shortstop as well. Yeah. And I don't want to do this thing where, like, I'm blaming Alec Bohm for Trey Turner not being competent and fielding a 3-hopper at him. Like, that would be unfair to Alec Bohm. But I do think when you play around guys and say, like, I know that this guy can get to this ball, let me worry about this pocket of what I'm responsible for with this defensive alignment. I think over time and, like, aggregation, like, or an aggregate like that's going to be a positive. So to your point, yeah, like, I think it's very possible. He's been really good over there. I've been waiting for 4 years to see this version of Bryson Stott, and it's been awesome. And it's not going to continue at this level. Like, Bryson Stott's not a 3. I don't think Bryson Stott's a 305 hitter. I don't think he's a 860 OPS, over the course of 162 games guy. But I think you're seeing that, like, he's not somebody that you platoon, and he's not somebody that you're like, he's just a guy. You got to turn the page. Like, this is a guy that I think has validated himself as a really quality Major League Baseball player.
Yeah. It makes me wonder if they look at that and say, he's our third baseman, and then you think about, what do we do at second base, or what do we do at shortstop, right? Like, maybe you slide Trey to second and you open up shortstop for Miller, or maybe Trey starts the year at short and then eventually moves over and Miller comes in and plays short. Who knows? Maybe you re-sign Arise, right? Now that he's here and he got
I'm
to
going to tell you something. I think we're all feeling the Arise thing right now, and he's starting to heat back up a little bit, and I like him. I think it was a good ad. I like that they're hitting him clean up. I know a lot of people don't. I think they're using him correctly. I'd be surprised if they re-signed him.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they let him walk either. But I mean, maybe you do. Maybe that's the. Again, I'm trying to say, like, if you like Bryson Stott as a third baseman, maybe that's in play. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. This whole equation, it all comes down to Aidan Miller. Like, I don't want to oversimplify this, but like, do you have a guy that you feel, despite the fact that he won't play competitive baseball this summer or spring, is he a guy that, given who he was and where he was at, that you feel like he can be a contributor as early as next year? And if you feel like that, and you're not dissuaded.
Yeah. Only thing is, Bob, I can't imagine. And look, they've been kind of quiet about it. All that we've gotten confirmation of from people in the organization. We talked to a couple of people on the road trip. We were in Minnesota, off record, is that he has resumed all baseball activities. That includes swinging a bat, right? There was all this talk about when is Aidan Miller going to swing a bat.
News.
So
you should do that story.
Well, we did. Tim did that story. Tim Kelly wrote that story, right? But I was standing there when that conversation was happening. So so that kind of stuff is taking place, not playing in games. I still think I don't think he comes in spring training, looks great, makes the team. Like, I think that he has to play.
I agree, but in the same breath, like, I'm not handing Luis Arise 3 years, $42 million because I'm not sold that Aidan Miller is going to be ready by June.
No, but what you could do a 1 year. I mean, he signed a 1 year deal with San Francisco. Yeah. Right. I mean, I don't think.
Yeah, and I just don't know. I don't know what the value is around the league. Like, I mean, he's a guy that's won multiple batting titles prior to signing a 1 year deal with the Giants. So, like, you would have thought at that point that there'd probably be a little bit more value to him. He goes out and hits, 322 again this year, and does it on a high profile winner, that makes the playoffs at the very least, hopefully. Does he not get a multi-year deal? Like, is someone saying, like, hey, 1 year, $13 million again? Like, if that's the deal, you sign him in a heartbeat, independent of how you feel about Aidan Miller. You just make it work.
Well, so here's one thing I wanted to get to today, and I'm glad that we're on this Luis Arise conversation, because there's been so much talk about him, right? About how they've played since he's gotten here, what he's meant to the lineup, and this and that. And I will tell you that my theory is that this whole resurgence of the offense, while it coincides with his arrival, is not really about him as much as it is about Bryce Harper. And there is a little bit of hand in hand, right? Like, having Arise bat behind Harper has allowed Harper to be a different hitter. But Bryce is the guy that's making this all go. Like, his 23 game on base streak is one thing, but the thing is that his on base percentage since he had Arise bat behind him is what, 509 or something like. It's over 500, right? He's walked 23 times in the last 15 games, something that's only happened twice before in the history of the franchise. Dave Hollins in 1995 and Dolph Camilli in 1936. Okay, this is kind of the crazy stuff that's happening. And as a result, his OPS is like over 900. He's only got one home run in that time, but he's got some. He's not like he's not hitting. He's got some hits as well. He's hitting, like high 280 or something like that. So he's getting on base in a lot of ways, and they're scoring a lot of runs. And it's not that Arise has been like great behind him. Arise has been okay behind him. He had that stretch where he was not good, but he's been okay behind him. But it's all about Harper to me. And I think that if Bryce Harper can continue to be this guy and not feel that he has to be the superhero, which is what has hurt him in the past, then I think the Phillies offense is just fine.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of on base. That's why the whole thing is flipped from like dead last to best, or top 2 or 3. And look, Luis Arias, since he's been here, has come to the plate 69 times, 69 plate appearances. He's had runners on base in 43 of the 69 plate appearances. And I don't know how many of these will let off innings. So, every time he's up, there's someone on. And it's usually Bryce Harper. Yeah. Now, you can make the argument that Bryce Harper's calmed down because he trusts Arias to hit behind him more than he maybe trusted Alec Boehm at the time. I think that's part of it. You mentioned he's obviously not trying to do too much. That's why he's generating so many more walks. The one downside, though, is, right, like if you're going to do that, like you want Bryce Harper to be a guy that does damage for you. And, the opportunity to do damage has maybe been diminished a little bit, maybe. I still wonder if hitting Kyle Schwarber in front of Bryce Harper would benefit them a little bit more. I wonder, or if you were vice versa, the Schwarber Harper thing back to back. I wonder if there's a way to maybe get pitchers to be a little bit more willing to give in to either of those guys. And so you worry about, like, is this the maximum alignment? I don't know, but I think it's working right now, and you ride it until you start to see an issue with it.
Yeah. I do wonder if at some point they do flip.
Like, my big thing is, Anthony, like, I guess what I'm really trying to say, I'm sorry. I guess what I'm really trying to say is, like, yes, they are scoring runs, and we've talked for so long about how they're boom or bust, and they get real hot, and they're over-relying on the home run. And right now they're not over-relying on the home run. It's kind of refreshing. And maybe this is what you want. Maybe you want to change the formula, and that was part of what this was all about, right? That all said, like, over the last couple weeks, combined, Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper have not done a lot of damage, via the home run. And Schwarber's has his moments, and I know he hooked one foul the other night. I get it. But, like, it's not like these two guys are going bananas and, like, powering them to victory either, It's more subtle.
Yeah. No, it's fun to watch, in all honesty. Like, there is nothing worse than, to me, and this is maybe because I'm old, but there's nothing worse to me in baseball than just watching guys go up there and strike out.
Totally agree.
Or strike out or home run. Like, it's just like, I want action, right? And so
you want to see Justin Crawford hit a comebacker to the pitcher's mound and the guy fall on his butt, because wasn't that the most Justin Crawford experience the other night? He had those 2 base hits he had the other night. The expected batting average on those balls was 060 and 090.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
My dad loves that stuff though. He goes, that kid can play. I'm like, he hit a one hopper back to the mound. Like, that's not there's no skill in that.
All right. I want to our boy Russ checked in.
Oh yeah.
Let's go. So I figured he's got 3 comments. I got, because he can't even type without hearing himself talk, right? So let's do this, because I want to throw this question to you, because if I try to answer it, it'll be the typical banter between me and Russ, where I roll my eyes at his incompetence in understanding what the hell goes on in baseball. But I'll let you do it. So, it's wild to me that we're doing this yet again. Another bargain barrel signing, because Dombrowski's acquisitions have been largely underwhelming. He's talking about Nestor Cortez. Honest question: where do you rank Dombrowski as an exec versus Howie Roseman, Gansey, and Briere? And he says, to be clear, as an exec now, Gansey's unproven, but he's drastically improved the Sixers in his first few months. Dombrowski feels like he's always chasing to fix a hole he didn't address effectively.
Okay. I'll go for it.
Yeah.
The question about Dombrowski versus the other 3 guys. One, it would be unfair for me to comment about Danny Briere because I don't know. Mike Gansey's brand new. This is exciting. You go get LeBron James and Brown, and that's awesome. But, like, also my overarching response to this would be, like, who cares? Like, that's a WIP question. No offense to WIP, but, like, I don't need to rank Dave Dombrowski against Mike Gansey. Like, who gives a shit? I guess it's I guess that's how I feel about that. As far as, sorry, Russ, like, I mean, I love you, I guess, but, like, who cares? To Russ's point, I think, like, my overall thing, we talked about Dombrowski on Monday. Like, look, I think that if you were to say grade this guy this season, I give him a C. And if you were to say grade him in his tenure here, I'd probably say like a B to B minus. And I think that he's left some meat on the bone. There are moves that he is whiffed on. There are moves that I think that he sort of doesn't get credit for. We talked about Derek Hill being here. You know, you go back the Ohapi Marsh trade, like people were going crazy about that at the time. I think that was a slam dunk trade for them. Jesus Luzardo was a massive win for him. Then, yeah, I mean, like that guy's maybe one of the 6 best starting pitchers in Major League Baseball right now. Like Dave Dombrowski went out and got him. This organization was an absolute joke prior to his arrival. Like, is the minor league system good? No, not really. Taijuan Walker, Nick Castellanos, I get it. Like, should they have traded Painter back in the day in 23 and gone for it? Maybe hung a banner. Like, yeah, these are all fair things. But I think that he's done some pretty good stuff, you know, that goes a little bit unlooked and, you know, or overlooked, I should say. Bowling for Matt Strahm. I mean, Jesus, that is an absolute 2-hand slam in favor of Dombrowski. You know, team wins 90 games, 95 games, 96 games year in, year out, knocking on the door, you know, of a potential championship. Get eliminated last year by the Dodgers. Frustrating as hell, right? They also played that series against one of the best teams in the last 25 years without their best starting pitcher. Like, I don't know, man. Like, if Dave Dombrowski says that in a press conference, it makes me nuts. I want to rip my hair out. But I could say it, you know, and be like, look, that's the reality of it. You know, they punched with those guys, had their shots, didn't do it. Shame on them. So Dave Dombrowski infuriates me a little bit. I was underwhelmed with his deadline, but I think he's done a lot of good that people don't really look at. And I also think that, like I said at the beginning of the show, would you have gone out and gotten a 5th starter, a 6th arm type guy at the deadline in an ideal world? Sure, I would have. I'm surprised they didn't. Would you trade a top 10 to 15 prospect to do it when you could go out and just sign this guy who might give you the same thing? Yeah, maybe it's a terrible mistake, but I'm not. They go out and get Nestor Cortez. That doesn't make me roll my eyes. I actually think that that's a pretty good shot you take there. I don't know. That's my response.
And it's a great response. And the point is that you wouldn't care about the Phillies if Dave Dombrowski wasn't part of the organization, right?
Yeah, you'd still be doing and look, like you get a couple of years out after an executive leaves, like Ed Wade in 2010 looked so much better than Ed Wade in 2003 and 4. Like, I hated Ed Wade.
Yeah.
The Phillies don't go through that period without Ed Wade, though.
Right.
Matt Klentak, I don't think it just wasn't good enough, right? And McPhail was a disaster. Klentak, I think, like, was a smart guy who just couldn't put it together.
Give him credit for Zach Wheeler. Like that was huge.
Probably one of the best free agent signings of all time.
Yeah.
You have to give him that. I don't know how much Matt Klentak had to do with Bryce Harper, but
not at all. That was all Middleton. So
I was happy to see Matt Klentak go in that. Like, I just thought that it was a JV organization, like a total Mickey Mouse organization prior to Dave Dombrowski's arrival. And I think he deserves more credit than he gets for that. And so that's enough on that.
I just want to show this because Sconce was complaining that we didn't put up his comments. So at Phightin Words 610-632. And Robert Mallard says, that's a WIP question. That's the stuff that keeps me coming back every season for like 9 years or however long it's been that we've been doing this show. So there you go, Bob. See that? It's great. It's good stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think that you answered Russ's question perfectly.
I think that Russ is can I say it? I'm going to be honest with you, Russ. I think that you are a good hockey guy, and I think you really know the NBA. I actually think that Russ is I think the thing that goes overlooked is that Russ actually knows the NBA quite well.
It's probably his best sport in my mind.
Probably.
I swear to God. When you have conversations with Russ, I'm with him 100%, almost 100% of the time on the Sixers. And then my connection to him diminishes with the other sports more and more. And as frustrated as I get with him about hockey, I really lose it about baseball.
I've long held the belief that nobody really knows what they're talking about when it comes to the NFL. I really don't. I think that most people like you or I are like media types. Like, you can cover and report, but like a lot of guys all of a sudden trying to become like all 22 connoisseurs and having these takes on these guys. And I I don't think anybody really talks about I don't want to say anybody, but I think most people don't talk about the Eagles in an intelligent way. It's like very like reactionary and hot take, myself included. I don't know Russ with baseball though, buddy. Like, no, yeah. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. All right. We've been going at this for an hour, so let's get to one last thing. And Bob, I wanted to bring this up with you because I find it fascinating, especially as we're going into 2027 next year. And I'm trying to find the exact story so I can give you the exact thing, but I read it in The Athletic. But the Atlanta Braves, they signed 3 of their draft picks for $500. I think it was their 8th, 9th, and 10th round picks to $500. And these guys were all, if I remember correctly, were all college seniors. So they didn't have a lot of leverage, right? They're going into their final year. And that they did this as a way so they drafted them over slot. So these guys who probably would have been like 18th, 19th, 20th round picks, they drafted them in 8 rounds, 8, 9, and 10, and gave them like $500 and said, thanks for, agreeing to do this, so that they would have more bonus money to spend elsewhere so they can overpay guys higher up in the draft to kind of prevent them from going to college where the money is available, obviously because kids are getting paid in college these days. So by having more bonus money earlier, you can potentially get kids that would have gone to college in rounds 3, 4, and 5 to sign with you and start working with you right away, because you're going to draft kids in rounds 8, 9, and 10 that probably shouldn't be drafted there, and you have the bonus money to do that. Is that smart business by the Braves? Is that a loophole? Is that something that Major League Baseball needs to consider closing? Or is that just how they have to compete now with college sports because of the money that's available at that level?
Yeah. So a few things. I know I read that same story, and obviously there were people around the industry that didn't necessarily criticize the Braves for it, but they were surprised by the approach. And so I think it's like all of the above to what you just said.
Yeah.
This is another instance where you see NIL just absolutely changing the boundary between collegiate athletics and pro athletics at this point. It's just so muddy and so gray. And I will say in this particular instance, like, I kind of commend the Braves for taking advantage of that, and I think Major League Baseball is obviously going to have to reconsider, the draft rules. But look, that's probably good business by them. I'm surprised, not to shoo away your one last thing, but I'm surprised we're not talking about the Dodgers today.
Well, didn't we do this already?
We did, but man, it's a little different now. This isn't
That's
just
the
like,
reason I didn't bring it up. I speculated it last time, when we talked about the Ohtani situation.
We're not quite there yet, but my feeling on this whole thing is that this story is shockingly underreported. Like, this guy's going through it right now. We're not going to make any accusations or say what's up, but I don't know, man.
Yeah.
And I do wonder, like, one thing I've seen a lot is, there are a lot of people that are like, if you don't like it, do it. Everyone can be the Dodgers. I guess. I don't know, man. It feels like there's some guys out there, beating the drum for the Los Angeles Dodgers about being this model franchise. And then you see this and you go, what's this really about?
Yeah.
I just wonder, like, if you're a reporter and you have this looming, like, let me just say this. You have this looming labor situation. Let's say you have player sources as a reporter. And so, do you do the MLBPA any favors by saying, look at the Dodgers. They're so great. Every owner should do this. Dodgers are the way, because you want them to all spend, and I just wonder, man. Like, there's something weird about this whole thing. I don't know how it ends, but it's not a great look for the Dodgers in the short term while this is all getting sorted out. But I'm a little surprised. I mean, the Wall Street Journal did something on it. Basically, this guy's trying to, in real time, save it. So it's just weird to me. It's not a little bit more mainstream, man.
Yeah, I'm with you that I'm surprised that it hasn't come out yet. But usually, stories of that magnitude, it takes a little bit of time for them to really come out. I think that the big media story will come out. I don't know. I'll tell you.
You feel like does he keep the Dodgers?
He sold the Lakers. I mean, how does he keep the Dodgers?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think that he's in a lot of trouble. Right. So I'll tell you, there's one. And I don't work for this company, but I'm going to tell you to get their morning newsletter because it's great because it's all about the business of sports. But Front Office Sports, they have a story that came out yesterday afternoon about Mark Walter that I think is really good. And it kind of looks at like, hey, this isn't the first time that we've been here with owners before, but he's also got some information in this story about the lawsuit that was that people who purchased life insurance policies through Walter's companies, that there's fraud. They got a quote about the fraud. It's really good. I would tell people to start looking there. I think that places like that are going to get this story. And it's going to come out. Like all the warts are going to be shown at some point. And I just think it's a matter of time. So for what it's worth. So then we got two last.
Certainly that will not further complicate the labor negotiations this winter.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So we're already feeling somewhat pessimistic about how that was going to go. I would say that this is a nice little wrinkle.
Yeah, you know what I've been kind of, and look, I'm sure my opinion will change on this 7 times between now and next spring. But in the moment, I'm starting to think like this might not be as long of a labor dispute as everybody makes it out to be. In the moment, I might change my mind on that. But in the moment, I'm kind of like, we might be a little bit delayed in March, but I think that they're going to get this done.
I personally have set June 15th start date as the over-under right now.
Yeah.
And I would bet after. So I'm more pessimistic than you, but you probably are more in tune with it than I am at this point.
I think we're going to be a little bit. I don't think we're getting 162.
I know that both sides right now are trying to shock one another, trying to cast doubt. Oh, there's no way we're going to play next year. You do that because you want to,
right? Yeah. I don't think we're getting 162, but I also don't think we're
not getting COVID.
We're not getting 60.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we're going to be in that 120 game range. I really do. So maybe we miss a month-ish of the season. That's where I'm at. I don't know. It's weird. I just think that's kind of where I see it right now. But who knows? Like I said, I think that opinion can change many times between now and then.
It's a shame because the 27. We don't want the 27 Phillies to be the 94 Expos.
No, but you know what? And I've said this before, being a shorter season with a veteran team is not a bad thing.
I know.
Not a bad thing. All right. That'll do it for us on this episode of Phightin Words. Don't forget, you can subscribe to Phightin Words on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, wherever you get your podcast. Best place, though, right here on YouTube, where we are. Just click that thumbs up and ring the bell. You'll never miss an episode. You'll always know when we're going live. If you're listening in the podcast feed, you can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/@Phightin Words. So for Bob Wankel, I'm Anthony Sanfilippo saying have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, everybody. Enjoy the Cardinal series. I'm gonna predict 2 out of 3, but I think that a sweep is possible. I just can't predict them winning 9 in a row.
I got 2 out of 3, and the loss is going to be one that you're like, come on, guys.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you on that. But it's very possible to get the sweep. And if that's the case, and we're talking about a team on a 9-game heater on Monday, that'll be really interesting. So for Bob Wankel, I'm Anthony Sanfilippo. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you soon.